Welcome to Axel's Garage. We are back with another TJ project, and it's the same TJ we've been working on. Remember, now we're up to 4 TJs at Axel's, between Axel's Garage and Axel's East. Last night we pulled a motor out of the TJ over at Axel's East. We were just talking about that. Heavy editing in that video because of the ridiculous cast of characters. But anyway, we've had Gordon's TJ here multiple times, chasing codes, right? We chased all the codes, and then all of a sudden an evap code popped, and we couldn't get it inspected. And we, of course, checked the gas cap. That's number one on the evap, because everybody says when it's the evap code, gas cap is like, 95% of the time. And it turned out it wasn't the gas cap, of course not. And it went from a very small leak to a very large leak, which we found was better because larger is easy to find. We couldn't find a freaking thing. But what we did was we took all the evap hoses and we unplugged them, turned them, plugged them back in, make sure they were all seated right, and he got in the car and went for a ride, and guess what?
Evap code went away. No
evap code. So right away we got it inspected before we had any other codes, went to the inspection station, inspected, and while we were at the inspection station, the inspector said, boy, that water pump is really groaning. And we had never really realized, but it is groaning a little bit. Not horribly, but groaning. But in the process of doing all that, flushing the radiator and doing all that stuff, what we established was a leak now. The water pump is leaking, the radiator is leaking. So we flushed everything out really good, ran water through it, ran antifreeze through it, ran Prestone flush through it to get all that gunk out that the previous owner had mixed all those different kinds of antifreeze, and it turned to sludge. So we got everything out, we put a new thermostat in it, put a new cap on it, and now the system is operating correctly. And because it's operating correctly, it's getting fluid everywhere it should. There's no more gunk in there. And when you shut it off, right, the pressure goes up when you shut it off because it's not being cooled anymore. The cap is holding the pressure. It's not blowing pressure out real quick like the old cap was. And it's operating fine. And now it showed its ugly face that the radiator's weak and the water pump was weak. So the water pump started leaking. The radiator started leaking. And now we're going to replace the water pump, the radiator, and the hoses. And once that's done, every freaking part of the cooling system has been replaced.
Right.
So, hopefully, knock wood, you will have no more heating problems. So, what we did was we went on Rock Auto, right? Real cheap.
Real cheap.
$123.
$23
shipped. We got a radiator, we got an upper and a lower hose, and we got a water pump and a gasket.
Right.
And that was dirt cheap. It took like 4 or 5 days to get. And I didn't open it up, but hopefully it's not, when you order a radiator mail order, there's always that chance that the box got jacked in the truck or in the warehouse, and we open the box up and the radiator's got all the fins bent, but hopefully it's not. What we're going to do today is we're going to drain the coolant out, or the antifreeze, depending on where you live in the country, is what you call it. Some guys just call it water.
Yeah, that's what's in it right now.
We're going to drain the water out. We're going to take everything apart. So we're going to get the water pump out, we're going to get the radiator out, and drain it all out. We'll probably make a mess in the driveway, so we'll push the Jeep back, we'll spray the driveway out, we'll push it back in, and then hopefully tomorrow, if it's nice, or whenever the next chance we can get to it in the next couple days, we'll put the new radiator in, the water pump in, and refill it with fresh, clean antifreeze, because that's what we call it up in the north here. And you should be good to go. And then you could start actually having fun with it, because you won't have to worry about it overheating. And then he takes the doors off, and he's got no mirrors, so we're going to work on that mirror thing too.
And some seatbelts.
Seatbelts, yeah. So only back seatbelts. So you're good in the front seat. He doesn't have back seatbelts. So we're going to move the camera, we'll get some tools out, and we'll get started. Alright, so while young Gordon wrenches here, what we've had to do is take the 4 nuts that hold the fan blade off and pop the fan blade off, lay it into the shroud for the radiator. In order to do that, we had to take the belt off, so we loosened the belt, took that off. That's in a previous video, and I'll link that right up around where my face is on how to get that belt off. Now there's 4 bolts that hold that shroud on. What we'll be able to do is, once he gets that last bolt for the shroud off, we'll be able to pull the shroud off, grab the fan and the shroud, and slide it all up and out, which gives us access to everything we need. You also have your power steering reservoir attached to the shroud. That's just slid into a slot on the plastic, and you can just pull it up and lay it out of the way. remember when you're taking the fan blade off, you're going to want to leave the belt on until you get those nuts off for the fan blade, so that you're not having to hold the fan back. The tension from the belt keeps the fan in place when you're breaking those nuts loose. And if it doesn't, your belt's too loose. Did we put a new belt in this car?
Yeah.
No? I think we might have ordered it then.
Oh, really?
I thought we put a belt in this car.
We had to turn it.
We took it off when we did the thermostat, but we didn't put a new belt. You're right. Okay.
I think it was. It's there.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So once we get to this point, you gotta reach in there, grab that fan, hold the fan in the shroud like this as you pull it out, and then it all comes out in one piece. All right, so we'll take this belt off the rest of the way. Put that in the box. Put that in the box.
See you guys later.
All right.
See you later.
All right, so now that we got all that out of the way, we have good access to the lower hose without crawling around on the floor where we spilled all the antifreeze when we were draining the radiator. And we'll pop that lower hose off, and then we'll unbolt the radiator, get the radiator out of the way. This Jeep does have air conditioning, so the air conditioning, I guess, is the condenser. It's like the radiator for the air conditioning. I think they put a condenser. That's not coming out, only this is coming out. So right now we're just going to take the low hose off, right? You got the clamp there and the clamp down there? Yep.
Like, it needs some. Like, it doesn't fit because there's.
Because that's too fat.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Is that the... So the radiator is held on with actually 4 bolts going into the radiator support, but on the driver's side there's a center bolt that's holding the front axle vent tube and going through the radiator mounting flange and the radiator support, so that has to come out as well. You take that vent tube, just flop it off to the side with the power steering pump, keep it out of the way, and then the radiator is free.
Like, it's too fat too. It's like right up against it. I need to bang it. I need to bang that flathead in there.
Oh, that's all right. This is the water pump right here. Right. This. Water plant.
Yep.
Right. So that's the water pump. You hear this noise?
Yeah.
That's the Grom. Your new water pump is going to do this with no noise whatsoever.
Right.
You're not going to hear anything.
So, this whole thing is the water pump?
Yeah. Alright, so what we're going to do is we are going to take this bolt and this bolt out first, and we're going to take this hose off because this rod here, it actually goes all the way down and threads into the water pump.
Okay.
Alright, so we might have to take this pulley. That's a 15 millimeter. That's a 15. That's a 15. So we need 3 15s. So I'm going to use the big one for that. Ready on what?
Tell me where.
Lifted it up already.
So you gotta push this. See this bracket? How this bracket is like wedged in there? So you can hold it. Yeah, hold it. This is the difficult one about this. Yeah, you hear that noise? Not supposed to be like that. Alright, now getting this out is going to be the fun part. Stuff it in there and get that antifreeze out. So that. And that's just purely to make it cleaner for us putting it back together.
Right.
Just like not, you know, let it absorb. You know. Dump this in there. Plug up some more.
Should we push it back a little bit?
Yeah, we're gonna. Alright, now you can just start up and back it up.
Start it up, or are we pushing it out?
You can start up. This is only gonna run for a couple seconds. Just don't turn the wheel, just go straight back. Okay. Good. No. No. Now you can't have this ball.
Right, Connor. Surprised he's not going after the hose.
He tried to a couple of times. Go get your ball.
You started it. Alright, I'm going. I'll be back.
Alright. Alright, so fairly straightforward. You know, just removing one thing at a time. Right, the radiator bolts were kind of like rusted, so you couldn't break them loose and turn them by hand. You had to use a wrench to get them all the way out. The one thing that we ran into that we didn't expect, which is, it's normal, we just didn't expect it, we should have because it's a Jeep, was that we had to take the power steering pump and loosen that in order to slip the water pump out, because the power steering pump bracket is on top of the water pump. So we got everything out. It came apart pretty easily. Just took a little bit of time. It's not like an undaunting thing. Like, oh, radiator, water pump, I'm thinking. It's just, you're taking a lot of stuff off, but it's not hard stuff. And then we cleaned up. We sprayed out the whole engine compartment with a hose, got all the antifreeze coolant, and some of the mud out of there, so that tomorrow when we're putting it all back together, we're at least working in a clean environment. We also pulled the Jeep back out, which you can run it with none of that stuff hooked up. You just have no alternator, you have no power steering, you have no cooling. So a couple seconds, no big deal. Back it out. We cleaned the driveway. We hosed it all out. This way tomorrow, if we're gonna lay on the driveway, it's clean, it's dry, and we're working like human beings.
Yeah.
Not with dirty stuff. The old Radiator has provisions for a automatic transmission cooler, as does the new Radiator. We couldn't find one at Rock Auto, at least, without custom ordering something that didn't have the provisions for that cooler. So what we got to do is we got to take your plugs out of your old Radiator, put them in the new Radiator, plug up that cooler, and then everything else just goes back together. The bolts, we'll clean the threads on all the bolts, and we'll put a little lube.
A little lube on them?
Little lube on them so that they're easy to get in and then easy to get out for the next time. Why? Because next time it just may be...
Maybe us again.
Yeah, maybe us again doing it. But that was pretty easy, right?
Right, yeah, not too bad.
You did almost everything yourself.
Yeah.
I just pointed and said,
Pointed,
turn that, use this tool.
Had to be a little bit of a contortionist today.
Yeah,
Get into some tricky spots.
You got to remember, being new to wrenching all this stuff, when you're using a ratchet, you really got to use two hands.
Yeah.
It looks like it's something you should be able to do with one hand, but it never sits on the bolt right. So sometimes you got to get under over something. Especially, he's got a little bit of a lift in the Jeep, and he's got big tires on it, so it's taller. So we're reaching over.
Right.
If we were regular mechanics that did it for a living, the first thing they would do,
Put that up.
well, either put it up, but they still got to work on this from the top.
Right.
What they would do is take all the air out of the tires.
Right.
Drops the car down a little below a more manageable height.
Right.
But instead of doing that, we'll reach over.
Yeah.
It's not too bad. And then we got new hoses, new radiator, new water pump. I don't think we ordered a belt. Maybe we'll run to the store and get a belt too. This way, all that stuff is new. We know where we started from. And then the only thing we haven't done is change the oil and filter and do a tune-up. Spark plugs, spark plug wires,
Right.
the cap and rotor are new. So maybe we'll do that. We'll get all this done. And then the next time around, we'll do the tune-up, and you should be good to go for the summer. He'll have the doors off, the top off,
Yeah, it's gonna look
cruising
nice.
around, getting caught in the rain.
Yeah.
Right? You got any jokes?
Nah.
No
No
jokes?
jokes. No jokes.
No jokes today at all?
Nah. Not
All right.
today.
No jokes today. So we're going to continue this with a part 2 that we'll film hopefully tomorrow, as long as the weather's good. Even if it's raining, we're under the tent here at Axel's Garage. We have lots of tents set up because none of our vehicles have roofs in the summer. Right? That's goes for the 2 Jeeps, the Blazer, and my Chevelle convertible. We keep the tops down the majority of the summer, so we set tents up in the driveway so that we don't have to put the top up unless it's absolutely necessary, because it's summertime.
Yeah.
All right. We're actually, we're Long Islanders, we're beach people. Anyway,
On the
stay
island.
tuned, right? Stay tuned for part 2, which will be the completion part. See you next time. Thanks for watching.